say that if there is a law and order situation, there is going to be a fight between two communities or two sects, and if a temple festival or if a Muslim festival, whatever, is celebrated, there's going to be unrest, then the government can interfere in saying, whatever be your religious rights, we are stopping it. We are putting a 144 section in the thing, and we are not allowing this. Yes, they have a right, and courts will uphold that.
That anyway they
Intervention,
have.
yes. No, that's what I'm saying. Subject to public order, morality and health. Supposing somebody tomorrow says, this is my religious right to behave in a way that is not seen as that is seen something as immoral. This is my religion that have this kind of exposure, this kind of a free sex or whatever. Then government has the right to interfere. Then health, there is a cholera outbreak or there is an outbreak of some contagious disease, and the temple festival which has been happening for hundreds of years, it has to be stopped because hundreds of thousands of people will gather in that place, and that is not conducive for health, public health. Then yes, the collector can interfere and stop. Apart from that, your individual religious rights and your administrative rights are not to be tampered with unless and otherwise there is a warranting circumstance or the serious mismanagement. But there is the same thing there in case of cooperative societies, in case of banks, in case of companies, corporate mismanagement. There the intervention by the appropriate authority or the body, like RBI or the company law board or the cooperative register or whatever, they appoint a special officer or they appoint directors replacing the existing directors, and that is for a limited period, and it's aimed at correcting the mismanagement. And once the mismanagement is corrected, they reconstitute the board and they get away. But whereas without there being any mismanagement, the government steps in and takes over, and not only they have a permanent office there. Kabaleshwari temple has an office. Srirangam temple, if you go there, the office is so plush, it will give a 5-star hotel reception some money, run for their money, and with the toilets and everything built inside the temple and all that. So, the permanent.
How about Tirupati temple? Is it taken over?
Tirupati temple was long taken over. It belongs to two Mutts actually. It belongs to two Mutts, and Andhra government is giving some 5 lakh rupees to the Matadipati every month now, and those Matadipatis have decided we will leave Perumal to the government. That's a different. Anyway, we are talking about TN temples, and HR&CE has a big department, a lot of people, and it's all being funded by the Hindus putting money in the Hindus.
Sir, you said the Mutt temples.
Which one?
In the previous slide.
Ah.
Mutt and Mutt temples are not required to give.
Mutts, see, in the Shurur Mutt judgment in 1954, the 7-judge judgment of the Supreme Court has said that every Mutt is a denomination, and when you have denomination, there is a section 107 in the HR&CE Act of Tamil Nadu which says this act will not give any powers to any officials to act against a religious denomination. That means the entire act is not applicable to Mutts and Mutt temples. But these Matadipatis are the first to stand in queue and pay the 12% and 4% and all that. And they
because
act
they
as
are
if,
aware, or because they are not aware and they are paying?
see, earlier Mutts were quite independent and they were different, and they were showing us the way how to protect our religious rights and all that. Unfortunately, in the last 30-40 years, without exceptions, most of the Mutts is plagued by nepotism and wrongdoings, and they are not able to defend themselves with robust.
So you're giving the same argument for takeover of temples also.
Sorry?
Temples are also taken over by same argument that our local society is not able to manage them. They will be corrupt.
Exactly, but Mutts have a special right, and even under the Act.
No, I'm saying the argument you are giving
No.
is the argument under which temples were taken over in 1804 by the British, saying that all these people are not doing their service, there are all these finance, there are all these monuments, there are all these money which has been given for temples. The collector said none of these people are doing any duty, they are all corrupt, these institutions are places of devil worship, they are morally sort of bankrupt, they are not doing what the society was to do, and the temples were taken over in 1800, all Tamil Nadu temples were taken over from then onwards. So this is the argument which, I mean, if we take this argument at face value, you have to accept government interference in every institution.
I'll answer that. 1817 and 1825 regulation, Madras and Bengal Regulation Act took over the temples because there were a lot of infights between the trustees. And
No, you're talking of 1800.
Yeah.
1875 in courts are all much later.
1863, 1842, the British government ordered the East India Company to get out of temples because two collectors.
No, that taken over in 1800. Then in England there was a big argument.
Yes, England.
That why this Christian state is to be playing all these because the commander-in-chief
You said it, sir. You
had
said
to
it.
run in, go
Okay.
in front of the
Anyway, we'll
Lord
make
Jagannath's
a different
chariot.
discussion.
And so there was an argument that the government has become Vishnu's wet nuts. And so this cannot be
That's
so. And we cannot be part of devil worship. And therefore, we have to control these institutions because they are the most crucial institutions in Hindu society or Indian society. But we should not be seen as being giving government legitimacy to it. Therefore, we have to come out of the temple. So this was the argument in 1840s. But they were all taken over in 1810. And you see what was finished was
There is some
all
more.
this money that you are talking now. There was 100 times more the money they were received. What Bajaj said, 1 minute, I'll just complete for just people may not know. That 1,200 villages were giving about 0.5% or 1% of their gross produce to Radharaja Swami temple. And so they had a relation with the Radharaja Swami temple. It was like the lord of the region. Now what the collector place did was, he said, we will take it over. We will pay it from the government. We will pay it from the government revenue. And they first made a list of it. Then they said, but all this is not being used by the temple. Why should we give this much? So a smaller allowance called Tasdik allowance was organized. So if you go to temples, this Tasdik name is even today
Yes.
it will be seen. So what 1,200 villages, 0.5% gross produce was converted to about 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees in 1870. And so this first process had already occurred completely. I mean, and various lands that were assigned to temples were taken over. But Hindu society being what it is, people continue to endow lands to temples. So, like some 50,000 acres were left over when India became independent, which is the great virtue of the independent Indian government to have sort of captured all of it and taken it.
Secular.
That I mean, I think we should put the original sin where it belongs. I mean, we cannot. The
Yeah.
argument given was that these local
We cannot
society
fully
does not-
understand without the historicity of these things. But coming to the present government, say, even today there are Tasdik temples. Even today there are a lot of lands, enormous stretches of lands belonging to temples and to Hindu charities. This Hindu charity word is very important because the Tanjavur Chatram administration has got 18,000 acres, which is now controlled by the collector of Tanjavur as government lands without there being any proper revenue for the 18,000 acres. If 18,000 acres is available to a Hindu Dharmic institution, charity organization, imagine the amount of charities we can do. This money is with the government.
Is
and
it
with
18
the-
or 80?
Huh?
80. 80,000.
18.
18,000.
18,000 acres. And it is the largest single trust in terms of ownership of land. The second is the Vedaranyam temple, which has got 17,000 acres. The third is the Vadur Rajagopal Swami temple, which has got 5,000 acres. The fourth is the Varaguna Pandishwara temple in Tirunelveli district, which has got 4,500 acres. These are all on record, not in hand, not in possession, not in enjoyment. We are going to the next slide. Government management and control of temples is unconstitutional. We know it from 1950 when the constitution came, but we have not done anything really about it. They want to control only Hindu temples. There are Christian institutions which enormous properties which are being misused or which are being looted by the Christian administrators. Similarly with Waqf, they don't want to have a look at it. Systematic loot of temples and vote bank politics and corruption in realizing the income. So, besides the loss of the immovable properties, now we have this murals, painting, inscriptions, and our icons, statues being robbed and stolen and being sold to the various museums, because museums A donation to a museum gets you 300 to 200% tax exemption in US in some other states. People take it from here, they get it valued by an expert. What is being sold here for some $50,000 becomes valued at $2 million there, and they give a donation buying it, and then they
By
get.
an estimate of a society called India Pride Project, and particularly a person called S. Vijay Kumar works out of Singapore, full-time job, but has been all the Nataraja and the Durga 10th century that have returned lately are largely all because of that one man's work. He's been working with a lot of international organizations to break down the art mafia. And so if temple murti is established that it is stolen, will not be sold by Christie's or Sotheby's or whatever.
There's an international law.
That's
thanks
now
to
international law.
Patur Narada judgment, which Dr. Nagaswamy and Dr. Subramanian Swamy helped secure in 1980s when the government was Chandrasekhar government was there. Anyway, that's a different story. But there is now an international law that even if a temple is in disuse, there is no worship. But since it is endowed as per Hindu Dharma, and the murti is established, Prana Pradishta has happened, there is a divine murti, and it is every right to come back to its place of origin. So, but
There's
still,
estimated $10 billion worth by market of murtis which are in the illegal.
still some
Trade
4,000
network out of
icons
India
and
right now.
statues are languishing in a warehouse in New York because our.
And in India. They have come back and languishing in customs
many of them have not
department.
come back. The US government is paying demurrage there because our scoundrel officers in ASI are not willing to certify them as the real ones or originals or whatever. Again, they've taken money and they've done all this. We'll talk about that in a different forum now. So the properties and the heritage is deliberately managed. Now this is a 16th century mandapam. It looks a little shoddy and all that because of the painting and all that. But it's a valuable historical. This mandapam was stolen entirely, and this is the gap. And sold away, and it finally landed up in somebody's reception in Switzerland. Yes, completely taken away. Huh? See the small tower, temple tower behind it. Now it can be seen very clearly.
Which town?
This is Erode district.
Erode district.
Okay. Now they have taken it completely, dismantled it, and sold it away because the locals who did not know the value were told, we will build a new nice mandapam. This is looking, we will build a larger mandapam for you. The donors came forward with the connivance of the HR&CE officials, and this was done. And what Temple Worshipper Society did is we gave an advertisement in the paper saying this has been stolen. We have filed the police thing, we have filed the reports before the collector, no action is taken. We came out with a quarter-page advertisement, timing in such a way that the trustees of the locals were meeting for re-election. At that time we came with that advertisement. Thus created a lot of thing. But then what these trustees did is, they went to Pondicherry or somewhere and they made similar pillars in cement, and then they brought it in the night and buried it in sand, saying no, those pillars are not gone anywhere, they are here. But they were made with cement easily. Anyway, this is the comparison which you are talking about. Religious institution, Hindu, Muslim, Christian. So first one is scope of the acts like TR HR&CE Act or Andhra Pradesh Religious Endowments Act. What does it do? It brings all Hindu institutions, temple, mutts and endowments under HR&CE. Muslim only trusts and endowments. Places of worships are not included, they are specifically exempted. Christians, there are no such acts. Either.
Because for them there is no worship. It's a place for
No,
meeting.
it is not.
maybe.
It's because they were very powerful in the government.
They were the government.
Today we follow the Saturday and Sunday as holidays.
Yeah.
There is nothing to do with Hindus or nothing to do with Muslims. For 5% or 10% of the people who were there in 1947, we continue with the Sunday holiday. And second, executive officer is always appointed for our Hindu temples. Appointed by non-government Waqf board for only those charities which have more than 5 lakh rupees income. No such appointments, no such acts. Status of executive officer is government servant. Non-government person is in the executive officer in Wakaf board. So, what are the powers? General superintendence and control of temples. Nothing can be done. You cannot fix the date of Balalayam, you cannot fix the date of Kumbhabhishekam. You cannot do anything in Hindu temples without HR&CE approving it. Or you greasing their palms. Here, there's only work properties can be supervised. Christian, they are scot-free. Now, what are the true properties of temples? It's not just for funding the rituals and puja and all this. Worship and the propagation. What is propagation? Propagation of Hindu values. If there is a mutt, if there is a Kanchi mutt, the Kanchi mutt has to spread the Siddhanta of Adi Shankara. Mutts were established only for their purposes. If it is Dharmapura Adinam, they should spread at least among their disciples the concept of Saiva Siddhanta tenets. Similarly with Vaishnavite mutts, whether Ramanuja or Vedanta Desika. But that is not happening at all. Today the mutts are struggling to protect their properties. Forget realizing the income from them. They are struggling to hold on to their properties. You know the amount of properties in agricultural land that the Thiruvavadari Adinam owns? 55,000 acres across Tamil Nadu. Except Salem district, I think they have properties in most of the districts in Tamil Nadu. Dharmapura Adinam has got 45,000 acres, of which 12,000 acres belong to Vaidishwaran temple alone. Tirupanandal, sir mentioned about that mutt also has got thousands of acres. It's called Kashi mutt.
I think they implemented themselves as a non-Hindu denomination or something like that.
No, not
to
to
save their.
No. They got a recognition as a denomination thing. It is only Ramakrishna mutt which implemented as not implemented. They say that we are not Hindus, we are Bandus. Anyway, so these mutts, they can do enormous charity, enormous educational service and health services with their properties, but they're not able to do because they are constrained by today's tenancy acts and the government non-cooperation and unwillingness to help them realize the true vision.
So 10,000 crores versus 64 crores is the last slide.
True income. But a fair income would fetch 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 crores. I'm going to show you, this is the last thing, and what can the true income of temple properties do? It can revive Vedas, Agamas, Shastras and Sanskrit. This has to be done. Without Sanatana Dharma is nothing without these. Then you have pujaris and staff. Staff doesn't mean that these people who clean the temple, there are musicians. Every major temple or medium-sized temple, they had dharmic institutions associated with them. Veda Padashalas, Agama Padashalas, regular Padashalas, Goshalas. They had so many dharmic institutions associated with them. Chatrams. Yes. I'm going to come to that in a different paper. We have 275 Tevara Sthalams and 108 Divya Desams. Of the 108 Divya Desams, a few are not in Tamil Nadu. Some is Vaikuntham, which
Maybe 70 are in
if
Tamil Nadu.
ordained by the Lord, we can go there and hope not to come back. But
82 are in Tamil Nadu.
I do on Tamil Nadu. So these places are places where miracles happen, where wonderful things happen, where our Hindu values and ethos, we had bursts of them, we had perennial sources of it. We are not propagating anything about it. We are not talking about it. We just go to temple, we break a coconut, we come back. That's it. That's not the way Hindu worship is. Propagation of Hindu value is centered in Hindu temple because every one of our acharya visited temples and sang in praise of the Lord. On the tenets they preached us, on the values they preached us. There is nothing without associating them with the temples they visited. So this is my presentation on the temple properties. I'll show you one document